There are words that pass through the ears and vanish like smoke, and then there are words that reach into the marrow of your being, unraveling everything you thought was real. Rumi's voice does not come from the past, it echoes from outside of time. When you listen, not just hear, but listen to what he says, something ancient stirs inside you. A thread is pulled, a veil shifts, and slowly the illusion that we call reality begins to show its cracks. You've felt it, haven't you? The sense that this world is a performance, that the roles you've been assigned, the stories you've been told, the fears that cling to you, they don't belong to you. That feeling isn't madness, it's memory. You're remembering something beyond language, something the soul knows, but the mind forgot. Rumi didn't write poetry to entertain, he wrote to awaken. His verses weren't meant to be admired, they were meant to disrupt, to pierce the lie of separation, to remind you that the walls you see around you, ego, fear, identity, control, are made of mist, and mist cannot hold the soul. Each of the 7 truths we will uncover is not just a line of poetry, it's a key, a disruption, a moment of remembrance that tears through illusion like lightning in a darkened room. But don't approach them like lessons. Don't try to understand them. Let them enter you the way wind enters a room, gently, invisibly, but unshakably. The first truth begins not with a word, but with a silence, the silence between thoughts. The place where the noise stops and the real begins. And once you step into that space, you won't come back unchanged. The first truth comes disguised as a question. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? Rumi doesn't accuse, he doesn't point, he invites. This isn't a prison of bars or guards. It's made of thoughts, expectations, identities handed to you like clothing. You wear them so long you forget you're dressed in something that isn't yours. We call it life, but it's a cage. The illusion is so complete that we defend it. We polish its walls. We hang pictures inside the cell. We fear what lies beyond the open door, not realizing that the fear is the lock. But what if the door really is open? What if the life you're living isn't you, but a role you've been rehearsing since childhood, trained by parents, schools, society, and screens? What if everything you cling to as self was never truly chosen by you? This is not a metaphor, it's a mirror. When you read Rumi's words, you don't just think, you dissolve. His poetry doesn't entertain the intellect, it bypasses it. It slips past the filters and lands in the part of you that remembers the original light. It doesn't tell you who you are, it reminds you of who you were before the world told you who to be. And in that remembering, the second truth rises, not from a book, from inside. Because the second truth is this: the wound is the place where the light enters you. Most of your life you've run from the wound, hid it, denied it, built your identity around it. But what if the wound isn't a flaw? What if it's a doorway? This truth doesn't make sense until you feel it, until the pain becomes so loud that silence breaks through it, until you stop seeing your suffering as punishment and start seeing it as invitation. The light doesn't enter through perfection, it enters through the crack, and the moment you stop sealing the crack, you become porous to the infinite. The third truth waits in plain sight, whispered so softly it almost disappears beneath the noise of the modern world. You were born with wings, why prefer to crawl through life? What a strange thing to say, unless you understand what he meant by wings. He wasn't speaking of fantasy or escape. He was naming something real, something sacred. The wings he speaks of are not for flying away from the world, they are for remembering that you were never bound by it in the first place. But we forget. From the moment we arrive, we're taught to fear our height, to distrust the sky, to trade the unknown for comfort, the mystical for the measurable. We are taught that safety lies in staying small, staying obedient, staying down. And so we crawl. We measure progress by how well we conform, how neatly we fit into systems designed to dull us. We celebrate surviving, not soaring. And yet deep within, something aches. You felt it, that quiet frustration, The sense that there's more, but you can't name it. That the life you've built feels too tight, too scripted, too known. That's not anxiety. It's your wings rusting from disuse. And Rumi comes like thunder in a library. He says, stand up, stretch, remember. This remembering is not dramatic. It's subtle, sacred. It starts not with changing your job, your relationships, your city, but by shifting how you see yourself. Are you the mask you wear? Are you the roles you play? Or are you the awareness behind it all, watching, sensing, waiting for permission to break free? This is where the illusion begins to crack, because once you stop identifying with the costume, you begin to sense the one who put it on, and that leads to the fourth truth. Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure. It's a truth that disturbs the ego and heals the soul, because it reframes everything you've tried to avoid. What if the thing you fear the most, your deepest sorrow, your quietest shame, your hidden grief, was the very thing designed to awaken you? What if pain wasn't your enemy, but your teacher? This doesn't mean glorify suffering. It means stop resisting the messages buried within it. Because pain, when met with presence, becomes alchemy. There is a moment on the path when silence speaks louder than any truth you've heard before. A moment when the noise of seeking, the hunger for answers, the thirst for clarity, suddenly collapse into stillness. And in that stillness, you remember the fifth truth. Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. We live in a world of words. Words fill our minds, our screens, our relationships. We analyze, explain, defend, perform. We've turned language into armor, thinking it will protect us from the uncertainty we fear so deeply. But silence. Silence reveals what language can only circle around. It is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of everything that cannot be spoken. Rumi knew this. That's why his greatest verses are not the words themselves, but the spaces between them, the breath between the lines, the invitation to feel, not just to think. In silence, the soul remembers. It remembers that truth is not something you find. It's what remains when everything else falls away. It's not outside of you. It never was. And when you begin to touch this silence, something changes in how you relate to the world. You stop needing to win arguments. You stop chasing meaning in every sentence. You stop performing awakening. You simply become it. And from this inner quiet, the sixth truth emerges, not as instruction, but as reflection. Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. Change is the great terror of the mind. It threatens identity, disrupts control, unravels comfort. But to the soul, change is breath. It is motion. It is remembrance in disguise. We resist because we forget. We forget that the river doesn't flow for us, it flows through us. That life is not something to master, but something to surrender to. This surrender is not weakness, it is power, true power. To stop resisting what is, and instead ask, what is this here to show me? Every shift, every loss, every disruption you faced was not a punishment. It was a redirection, a realignment, a call back to presence. You were never meant to remain the same. You were meant to shed, to burn, to transform. That is the rhythm of truth. Not stillness, but flow. Not certainty, but trust. And when you begin to trust, even the unknown, you return to the center. Not because the world changed, but because you did. To live from that center is to become untouchable, not in the sense of being above the world, but within it, yet not of it. This is the paradox that the seventh and final truth carries like a flame. You were not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. Yes, Rumi said it before. But now, the meaning lands deeper. You understand. He wasn't being poetic. He was being precise. These wings are not for escaping reality. They are for lifting through it. You weren't made to survive a system. You were made to transcend it. You weren't designed to shrink, to conform, to perform. You were born with memory in your bones, a knowing that you are more than name, form, or function. And yet, how easily we forget. We anchor our worth to applause. We measure our lives by milestones made by others. We trade mystery for safety, depth for data, soul for image. And the whole time, the wings remain. You don't need to earn them. You just need to unfold them. You need to stop rehearsing who you think you should be and allow the essence underneath to rise. Because freedom is not a destination, it's a frequency. And once you shift into it, the illusion can no longer hold you. You still move through the world, but now the world moves through you. The sky doesn't call you because it's far, it calls you because it's familiar. And when you answer, you don't rise alone. So now you've heard the truths, not just as poetry, but as echoes of something your soul always knew. They didn't surprise you, they reminded you. And that's the quiet miracle of Rumi's words. They don't bring information. They strip away amnesia. They speak directly to the part of you that was never asleep, just buried under noise. But what do you do with a truth that deep? You carry it with you, not in your hands, but in your presence. These truths are not instructions, they are frequencies. You don't need to understand them fully. You need to live beside them until they begin to speak on their own. This is the part no one talks about, the space after the revelation. The moment the insight fades and you're left with the unchanged world staring back at you. Nothing looks different, but you do. And now the real work begins, because the ego will want to turn this into achievement. It will say, you know the truths now. What's next? How do we use this? How do we optimize it? But the soul doesn't move like that. The soul whispers, be still. Let it reshape you. This stillness is not inactivity. It's integration. It's the pause between exhale and inhale. The sacred moment when a new truth takes root inside you, not in your thoughts, but in your being. And you'll notice the shift in strange ways. The same conversations no longer hold your attention. The same fears don't grip you. You're less reactive, more observant. You say less, but what you say carries more weight. You feel alone, but not lonely, like you've entered a different frequency while still occupying the same space. This is what the mystics meant by the world within the world. You begin to see people not as roles or behaviors, but as levels of remembering. Some awake, some dreaming, some walking toward the light, some running from it, and all of them, in some way, you, not above, not below, just at a different point on the spiral. That's when judgment begins to fall away, and compassion, real compassion, takes its place. But with awakening comes friction. Don't let anyone romanticize this part of the path. The moment you begin to embody these truths, the world doesn't applaud, it resists. Because your very presence starts disrupting unconscious patterns. You are no longer playing by the rules, and that unnerves the system. You may notice it first in your relationships. The same people who once celebrated your growth may suddenly feel distant. Conversations become shallow. You find yourself unable to pretend, to perform, to participate in dynamics that used to feel normal. You feel the divide. It's not that you're better than anyone. It's that you no longer seek validation in the same places. And for many, that looks like arrogance, or detachment, or strangeness. But what it really is alignment. And alignment shakes things loose. Even within yourself, you'll feel resistance. Your ego will cling to old versions of you, versions that felt accepted, loved, secure. It will whisper doubts. Who do you think you are? This isn't real. You're going to end up alone. These voices don't mean you've gone the wrong way. They mean you're stepping beyond the boundary of the familiar. You are leaving the cycle of sleep, and everything that was built inside that dream will try to pull you back, even your own comfort. You'll be tempted to crawl again, to shrink back into roles that are easy to explain. You'll crave certainty, even if it's false, and the people around you will offer it. Just be normal. Why so serious? You've changed. Yes, you have changed. That is the cost and the gift of remembering. There will be nights of silence so loud it hums in your bones, days when the weight of clarity feels unbearable, moments when you question if you've lost more than you've gained. But hold steady, because beneath all that shedding, something else is forming, something true, something indestructible. You're not falling apart, you're falling out of the illusion. And then, quietly, it happens. No flash of lightning, no heavenly trumpet, just a subtle shift, so gentle you might miss it. You stop searching. You stop waiting for the truth to change everything for you. You stop needing the world to bend, or the people to understand, or the mind to agree. You simply settle into being. This is not surrender in the way we usually mean it. It's not giving up. It's giving in to what is, without resistance. It's the moment you stop running from the present moment and finally let it hold you. You start to see that these truths weren't external answers to be memorized. They were mirrors, showing you what was always inside. You begin to walk differently, not with arrogance, but with anchoring. You no longer feel the urge to speak when silence will do. You no longer try to fill space just to feel visible. You no longer perform depth, you embody it, and that embodiment becomes your language. You don't talk about freedom, you carry it. You don't preach truth, you radiate it. You don't try to wake others up, you become a living invitation to remember. This is the fruit of the storm, the prize for all the nights you spent hollow and burning and unsure. Not bliss, not perfection, but clarity. Clarity so deep it softens everything. You no longer need to explain your awakening to anyone. Your energy speaks for you, and strangely, without trying, you begin to attract others who are ready, not many, but a few. Not seekers of information, but carriers of light. Not students, not teachers, just travelers, like you. And with them, there is no need to perform, no need to define or defend your truth. You sit in presence, you listen, you remember together. This is not the end of the path. This is the beginning of real life, the kind of life where your choices align with your soul, where your peace isn't situational, where your wings, once folded, stretch effortlessly in the open air. Rumi never asked you to understand him. He asked you to let his words do their work, to melt illusion, not analyze it, to dissolve the veil, not study it. And now that the veil is thin, there's only one thing left to do. You've made it through, not through a lesson, but a remembering, not through a teaching, but a transformation. These truths weren't given to you, they were awakened in you. And now you stand on the other side of the veil, not as someone who knows more, but as someone who needs to know less. Because knowing was never the goal. The goal was to become the silence that listens instead of the mind that reacts, to become the space that holds instead of the fear that clings, to become the presence that is without explanation. This is what Rumi wanted for you, not belief, but embodiment, not answers, but awareness, not a new identity, but the shedding of all that was false. The illusions haven't disappeared. The world still moves as it did before, but now you see through it. You see how easily people cling to their chains and call them purpose. You see how noise masquerades as wisdom. You see how souls forget and how much it hurts to remember. And even in that seeing, you remain soft, because the awakened don't rise above the world to escape it. They rise within it to anchor light where darkness forgot it was light. Now, your life becomes your language. How you sit, how you walk, how you speak, how you leave a room. These become your poetry. These become the verses that others feel, but cannot name. You are not here to convince. You are here to resonate. You are not here to lead. You are here to remember with others who are ready. You are not here to shout truth. You are here to live it quietly, like a flame no wind can touch. This is the invitation now, not to chase more, but to live deeper with what you already know, to allow the truths to breathe through your choices, to whisper through your presence, to echo in the life you touch. And maybe, If something stirred in you here, something small, something ancient, something you don't yet have words for, you'll leave behind a trace of it, a whisper, a flicker, a presence below. Not because you should, but because someone out there is reading, and they're still wondering if they're the only one who sees.